There we go. I figured it out. Let's get ready. It's time to open up this series between MAO and FYF. So it looks like Rep and MAO, we're going to have Avli and Matisse opening up on the English and French respectively. And then the other side for FYF, it is going to be Flash and Wu Yu playing on the Mongols in English.
Yeah, we already talked about this dynamics that we have going on with these civ picks for a while, but do we see an instant barracks? Because the thing with English is that if you go man-at-arms, you usually don't want to scout first and then to get the info, because if you do that, then you're quite often too late already. So it's quite often just an instant choice, like, okay, am I going to go for it, yes or no? And so far, the answer seems to be no.
It just feels like it puts you very all in, because, you know, while we aren't in a mirror matchup, the English element is, right? And I think the English is going to be key here. You assess that in the pre-game, right? This whole idea that these type of maps are the type of maps where you can wall yourself in and play towards Imperial instead. Usually after initial feudal aggression as the English player. If you go into the Dark Age aggression, you're just putting yourself behind. And you know, we do have to think about things like Defender's Advantage when those initial men-at-arms show up. If your opponent has Lombos, he won't kill you straight away, but will gradually whittle you down.
Yeah, I think longbows against H2M men-at-arms do actually pretty well. Okay, so Matisse gets the info here that there will be some sort of tower rush, and I think Matisse's spawn is actually most important here. Like, it looks pretty bad. His gold is in the front, he has a wood line in the front, so he's not going to be happy with the spawn. And he will just opt to go for the tower as the defense.
You see what
I think?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, oh yeah, okay. So Vodka was kind of pointing out, like. And this is the problem with building a tower against Mongols. Like, the Mongol player will just be like, okay, you build it on this side, okay, I'll just build it on the other side. So I think with the tower as defender, you don't want to build it. You kind of want to just keep the 100 woods, and then as the tower is being built by Mongols, then you decide where you're going to place it.
Yeah, you reactionary build, because you know you can invest 4 times the villages that your opponent can. Unless they want to bring multiples. But as we can see, Flash is only going to pull 1 to open this up. And he's already committed the outpost. One thing I think is maybe kind of underrated is this idea of stopping short of completing the outpost. And then after you see someone do something, you can be like, okay, so this outpost is actually useful, or you just cancel it for the full refund.
Yeah, the only problem with that against Mongols is that the Khan will just shoot at the tower. And if you go into this dance of constantly building and deleting, they keep on getting bounty.
That's true. I was thinking just in this situation for the initial outpost though, right? Like, yeah, you give him a little bit of resource, but you still, like, the difference is you still save 50. He gets 50, but you're like returning 100 to yourself. So it's... I'm
really confused by this tower because, like...
It's very aggressive.
Like, let's... No, I mean the French tower. Like, if you decide to just fully build one, I would have built it on the original side, because then at least you're protecting the wood line. Like, now this tower will deny both. Whereas if you build it on the right side, and the Mongol would have built his tower on the left side and only hurt the gold instead of both resources.
So, it almost feels like Matisse just sat there. He's like, there's no way he'd be that greedy with his outpost placement, right? No, we'll go over on the left side.
We're getting what I wanted. We're getting the shortbow pool.
That means you can't dive, because if you dive, there'll be a garrison come out into the French outpost, so we'll still get his bang for buck in the end. Almost feels like in a way you kind of baited your opponent to make this investment. In fairness, though, Avali did still have to pull 2 bows, 2 villages, that is, to counter this play.
Yeah, but I think it's worth it for sure. Like, you have some idle time on 2 vills, but I mean, your opponent also has idle time on 1 vill. Yeah. So it's basically you're idling 1 more vill than him, and you're also getting all this spear investment and everything. So yeah, great hold. Finally got to see what I was hoping to see at some point.
Works out well. Doesn't have to pull too many villages, and then, of course, shifts them south side to work on the wood. Does feel frustrating when you only bring, like, 2 villages. To be that kind of min-maxy guy, it's like, well, now I have to invest in this lumber camp. Long term will work out, but a lumber camp for just 2 villages makes you grumble a bit.
Yeah, but I mean, it's better than walking home, so...
Yeah, I think it was like, made the comparison, bring 5 villages versus bring 2. Like, you would be idling more villages, but in fairness, you would definitely snipe the enemy villager in that situation.
I think what you called earlier in the series is that the Mongol player should probably bring 2 vills of his own. And if he would have brought 2 vills, then the tower would have just gone up.
Yeah. And I think that's also why Avali only brought 2 villages. He's like, well, mathematically, you just can't get this up. He also gets the initial
Exactly,
longbos
yeah.
out. Now, this is a little bit problematic. Because actually, if you look at the top, you can see Avali clearly has the lead in longbow production, and they are fighting away from the other English players. So no attack speed aura for the defense. And also, Flash will not have the maneuverability of the Yam. He did go for the Silver Tree build.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting the Silver Tree, but I feel like it's amazing in 3v3 and then not as good as 2v2. I think 2v2 is just so much similar to 1v1, where it's really hard to pull off this sort of grease. And like not having Yam network is gonna hurt him quite a bit.
It's especially crippling when you're playing against tempo aggressive civs. Even more so when it's a civ that has mobility like the French. So very likely if you even try to trade, you're going to get sniped out. And at that point, you have to question mark, what does Flash do? How much rope has he got? All right, because he's got that small wood line. After that, he's nowhere near additional wood. So anything he invests in now has to pay off.
Yeah, and he's also sort of close to the trading post, so it's not gonna be like a good trade income at this rate anyway. No. But we'll see.
Cheeky little bait out there. So Avali didn't have all the lombos here initially. Just tried to peel and bring Wuyu out of his base. But Wuyu quick to respond, so minimizes losses. But now the numbers begin to escalate on both sides. Like I said, you know, Avali, he still does have the lombo lead, but their goal is to play away from the English base. So the defender advantage of reinforcing is not there for Wuyu.
Yeah, this is great. You kind of just park your units in between the 2 opponents, and you know they want to play bow pike, but if they can't reinforce each other, it doesn't work. And we've been seeing this quite a bit throughout the day.
Well, now we're going to see Horseman added in by Flash. Realizes he has to all in on this timing. Can't afford to be greedy in any way at all. Just too much being given over right now. And enough justification to build into these Horsemen, considering the amount of longbow that Avali is investing in. It's turning into a kind of stubborn stalemate of lombo versus lombo.
Yeah, and I like this play from Flash. He is not making traders. He just made the Silver Tree for like later on. He wants to probably do something with it, but for now he realized, okay, I have to go Spear Horseman here.
If you can't use the Silver Tree though, there is an element of inefficiency here, right? Because you could have had Yam instead, which would of course impacted your gathering rates because your villagers would be returning drop-offs much quicker.
I agree, but I mean, once you've made the choice to go Silver Tree, you know, I like the fact that at least he's not fully committing to it mindlessly.
Definitely. It's just one of those situations where, like, you know, if we look back at the beginning of that tech up, did you feel like there was a way that Flash would ever get it?
What's going on there?
They are just checking that this wood is up to longbow production standards.
Nice.
And then they can feed that info back, like, yeah, these green longbows, their bows are rigged. They're made with weak wood.
No, but I wanted to reply, like, I don't think Silver Tree was the play here. No. I feel like just going Yam is better.
So I'm wondering if there's maybe in his eyes some sort of mind game element here. Right? Like, if he sees I go trade, they'll go all in, and then my English player can kind of subtly boom. But even then, like, you know, your English teammate has to match the English opponent. So you can't even argue that he's going to boom for you.
I think I do believe in mind games, and there are situations where, you know, going for Silver Tree will make your opponent react to it. Like, let's say you're playing against Abbasid, and now the Abbasid player is like wondering, do I still go second TC or not? You're playing against French English, and they're gonna make Knight Longbow. Like, it doesn't matter what game you're playing with your landmark, if you're bluffing them or not. They're still gonna make Knight Longbow.
That's fair. But go give credit to Avali and Matisse. They're not rushing an end state here, right? They're just kind of keeping presence, keeping annoyance on their side. They're saying respond to us, but at the same time, respect Flash for doing this. It says, there's no point. My horsemen are fast. If there's a real fight going on, they're going to arrive in time. We're on the defense. I need to go and do something elsewhere.
Yeah, I like this play because the English, you know, English is just so good at defending. They can't really start diving into this base anytime soon. So I like the fact that he's just using his youths, and he's arriving at the wood line now. He's probably going to get some kills there. Is where, yeah, there's 2 vills from earlier.
Heavily Pepe
And
hands. Why did I spend 50 wood on this lumber camp?
and yeah, Matisse will also have to transition to that wood line soon enough. Like I assume his wood line will also be out. He doesn't have to use a lot of wood right now. He's just making knights, but it's such a small wood line. So.
Rough fight. Definitely favors Wu Yu the way he baited them in here. Got the attack speed aura on his side. Even baits in the knights to fully commit at such a low count as well. Definitely a trade that is fully going the way of FYF here.
Yeah, I wouldn't say fully, but it was in his favor for sure. And in the meantime, Flash isn't even there. He's just raiding.
Exactly, and that was what I was worried about. Like the fact this is a 2v1. Like, you know, as far as 2v1s go, that feels pretty dominant coming out from Wu Yu. Just shows you the power of the English defense you mentioned.
Oh, he's aging up. It's insane.
Oh wow. Yeah, the Mongol player is.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, this is more or less the army he built, right? Past the initial spears. I think he's still got some spears at home. So it's still an impressive timing for Flash here. And now, because he's done this raid, he's going to make that tech up. Because of the fight that Wu Yu took, it's not like you're instantly going to be punished for going Castle Age.
I think it's 100% the right move. I think it's great. But I'm just amazed at the fact that it's so early. Because he tower rushed with pikes. He made horsemen. He's been raiding. Like, he's been actively in this game. And still managed to reach H3 at such a competitive time. Yeah, well done.
Yeah, honestly, the impressive part to me is like the synchronicity. The way that Wu Yu baited the entire army in. He whittled it down to the point where they felt they needed to go back to defend because they couldn't do any damage. And then it syncs up the situation where, you know, sometimes people make a Castle Age play and there's an enemy army outside their base, right? That's bad. But instead, as we can see, Avali and Matisse had to run all the way across the map to defend. So it means they can't even insta-punish this grid.
Yeah, and now, because of the good trade that the green player took, they're kind of just chilling, and you know, Mongols is gonna. I think he will probably still have some stone left to double produce. But he's still turning horsemen. I would have expected knights, but yeah, I like the position that they're in.
Yeah, I mean, he has a lot of gold to work with, right?
Yeah, and I wonder if he's gonna bring this silver tree into action soon enough. I feel like they've gotten enough map control by now that he can start doing it.
One thing to keep in mind is like getting access to gold is going to be difficult here. So I agree with the idea of the silver tree, and maybe that's why he's pushing horsemen, right? Horsemen's primarily food, so you'll have wood and gold to spend on traders instead.
Yeah, but I don't think he's trained one yet. I was kind of expecting them to start coming out now. Maybe he wants to go into prayer tent first, try to get some of the relics as well.
I think his bigger issue is going to be wood, right? Like, if we check his initial starting line, I think it's draining dry at this point. Like, he's maybe got like 4 trees left. Of course, that's not an issue for Wu Yu. You can see Wu Yu extended out with the farmlands, but he extended wide. And these knights are happy to ride wide here. Able to just outmaneuver the English army and force a hell of a lot of idle time because of how many villagers are running.
Are you running? He was probably expecting. He was probably expecting that wall to come up, and then figured he would just be safe. But it was a little bit too wide with the farms there.
We'll take out a few knights, but almost felt worthwhile for the amount of idle time forced. Whether there's going to be a response coming in. You mentioned you want to see Lancer start to push out, and finally it's there. Flash already producing 7, 3 now already in the base of Matisse. And remember, Matisse still playing in Feudal Age. Castle Age player for the side of MAO is Avali, and Avali, well, he's only just started producing knights.
Yeah, and I think we will most likely reach a game state where everything is just going to get walled off. Like we'll continue to see these little trades happening, but nothing too deciding. Like I think on the other side, green should just wall everything because obviously the Mongol player can't. And once that happens, it will all be about trading. I think that's kind of the way I see this game heading.
Yeah, and to that point, you can see Flash that this play, not only is it dragging the enemy knights further away from use elsewhere, it's also the fact that he's checking in to see if trade is online for the South team at all. So we get confirmation that hasn't happened yet. We'll get killed on the outro. I think Remaining Lancers should both be going down. Enough longbows to ensure that. Ooh. Okay, limping around, but likely to go down. The second wave, however, might prove problematic because he just noticed Avali pulled his slow-moving army all the way to the south side of the map. Difference here is if you look for the English player on the other side, Wu Yu hasn't left his base, so he can still respond to these raids.
Yeah, I feel like he should just camp his longbows at those farms because he keeps on having to chase the knights around. I think the green player, that is.
Yeah.
I feel like you just want to kind of camp there and you know, stop getting yourself idled.
There's no doubt Flash seems to be getting more value out of these raids. He's found another one. Villagers are going to be pushed about. Upside at least coming out here for Avali is he's had the 2 TC, right, due to the King's Pass. However, we do see that Wu Yu should have that now as well. Yet to see the trade fully online, but I think that's about to begin for Flash. It looks like he has set up a marketplace next to the neutral trade post.
Yeah, I think so as well. Oh, it's just an Uvu.
Oh, wait, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, now I really want to see a marketplace here. Get that double production
Yeah.
rolling, right?
That's like the perfect stone spot to have.
It's tempting you, right? It doesn't matter which side of this map you would have spawned on, you would have got the same. Because if you look at behind Matisse and Avali's base, they kind of wish they were in Mongol as well. They also got a stone placement right next to the trade post.
I feel like the one that's really hurting here is Matisse. I think like the English players are kind of fine with this game state. Like they're both just, you know, making farms, 2TC, putting themselves into a good position. But I think as Matisse, like being French here is just not a great time. He's on 1TC. He's definitely gonna fall off a bit.
Like if we take the English out of the equation in 1v1 formats, the logic has always been French player wants long feudal, Mongol player wants to escape the anarchy and go castle. And I think it plays very similarly in this situation. It's why I would definitely agree, like FYF feel ahead at this point, because Matisse hasn't been able to extract more value. The plus side for him though is Flash went for a mass Lancer build. And Matisse, as we noticed, is teching up the Royal Institute, which means that he will have the better heavy cavalry.
Yeah, that's true, but I kind of don't expect to have like a massive fight. I think it's just a lot of posturing and like running around, catching raids and all that stuff, rather than just like one massive fight where the HP difference will be a big deal.
That's true. You do also have the canted saddles though, right? Which can make it easier to snipe villagers.
What did you say? What do you also have?
The
to snipe
canted
villagers?
saddles to snipe villagers, right? So you get the extra 10 damage on your lance with their initial attack.
Ah, right. Yeah. I didn't know the name of the tech. I do know which tech you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, you just call it Royal Institute Q or Royal Institute W. I think it's W. It's always my favorite one casting with pro
No,
players.
I think it's A.
Is it A?
Actually A.
Yeah. You're probably right. Yeah, you're right.
W is the healing one.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. What, Chivalry?
Yeah, I don't know the names. I know the hotkeys.
Yeah,
okay?
I always forget you can get it in the Royal Institute because everyone always has Chivalry by the time they have a Royal Institute, right?
Oh, I've gotten it there quite often. It's a bit cheaper as well. So.
Longbows. I'm going to try to push back against this, but instead they're going to have to run for the high hills. There's not enough knights here to defend. Lancers are going to swarm through. I mean, this is where things start to get uncomfortable, I think, for the side of MAO.
Yeah, I really like the position that they're in on the top side of things. And I'm pretty sure Matisse, like that extra knight XP that you were talking about, I don't think it's finished yet, most likely. And even if it did, I mean, his knight mass is so small right now.
It's never a good sign when the French player has less knights than his opponent. That's that's the number one reason why you pick the French, is you should always have heavy cavalry advantage, but it feels like it's always been a disadvantage, and this just feels worse. When I look at his base and I see this many farms, only thing that's going to get farmed here is you.
Yeah, and even longbows in such a big mess thing. Yeah, that was great.
Oh man, the confidence. I mean, I think we're at the stage where because we're getting very close to that point where they just feel pummeled beyond repair. I gotta say, like, execution coming out from Wu Yu and Flash, we weren't the biggest fan of maybe the opener, but the way they played off of each other was phenomenal here.
Yeah, and also the timings that were hit by Flash. That was very competitive H3 timing. I was so impressed by it. Like as soon as I saw the landmark, I was like, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's also like it kind of feels dicey because we kept going. Maybe you need to go trade now, and every time it's like, not yet. Right? I need more.
Yeah, that's why I'm casting mates. Like I wasn't allowed to play.
You're the greedy player, right? We'll see you later today. Straight out, like 5 minutes in, you've got 4 marketplaces. Like, dog, you can't even afford that many yet. Oh, good lord.
Yeah, even with God Vision, I still have no clue what's going on. I was really expecting Trade to come out, but apparently he just knows better.
You can't even get the walls up, Matisse. So much idle time. Remember, this is a player on 1 town center.
The Vills are like, well, we're gonna go try again.
We can go do what you guys got this, right? We can go do what we were doing before. No, you're almost dead. Get clubbed down.
No, just the 2 of them.
So you brought all these knights and still lost practically all the villagers. Oh, good god.
I wonder what these 2 Vills decide to do, you know? Like, I feel like they're gonna go to the mining camp once again.
So we can go do it again, right? Oh, what do you mean we didn't wall the east side? Dab. By the way, behind all this, Flash has gone for a second TC and will then eventually go in the trade as well. So, like, this is... Matisse, like, he's a very talented player, but if you came this game and looked at it right now, it would feel like he's playing in the big league and he's out of his depth. Because right now, like, from an eco scaling point, he's not in the running anymore at all.
No, so that's kind of the problem with French in games like this, is if you stay on 1 TC, you just fall flat, and then... But if you decide to go 2 TC to make sure you remain relevant into the game, then sometimes it feels like you're not playing to your strengths because you want to use that early aggression more.
Yeah.
So I kind of like the English-Mongol combo better on a map like this.
The way I define it is like, you know, that French TC build you talked about. You have to carve out an advantage off your French knight raids to then justify. And if you lose too many knights, you can't, because what we have to remember is when you drop a second TC, you're increasing your food costs per minute as you produce more villagers. And that puts you on a delay to get a return, means you're sacrificing knight production. I guess we shouldn't talk about the French player anymore. He just doesn't exist, though. He's even Avali has given up. He's like, I'm leaving. You're gone. Trash.
I mean, he's already sacrificed 2 Vills to the greater good at the start. He's probably like, I'm done with your stuff.
Yeah, Avali's like, noob, please report. Cost me 2 villages. All right. At the moment Matisse is that, he's like, nah, GG, we're out of this one. So game 1 will go the way of the Chinese team. FYF in with the early lead. Incredible performance out of them as well. You mentioned the incredible timing into Castle Age by Flash, despite everything that happened early on. Followed up by the synchronicity with which they force a fight which you'd think would be favorable for Avali and Matisse, a 2v1, but it backfires due to the English aura. And at the same time, Flash, I think, ends up killing more villages, it felt like, than the French player was able to do. And he was only raiding with horsemen compared to knights.